Hello, and welcome everyone. My name is Francisco Cantu, and I am here with my sister Laura Cantu, ready to talk about topics that are relevant to the world of college admissions. What we will be discussing today will be pertinent to parents, particularly those of you who are looking for the next steps after having filled out the FAFSA. We're going to be talking about next steps. What are some updates from what has happened since we saw you last week? We are going to have a discussion about the best practices to make sure that you don't leave any money on the table when it comes to getting your financial aid award package. And at the end, we're going to be engaging with you all. We're going to be answering some questions.
If you were able to fill out the FAFSA, what are the next steps to do after completing this form? I know a lot of people haven't been able to complete it. We have been getting comments. We have been getting a lot of messages. Members of Best College Aid, our students, even tell us that they've been having a hard time. So I will say, before we even get into any of these topics, even if you haven't filled out the FAFSA, the information, the tips that we will share with you today are still going to be quite helpful and are still going to be beneficial to know in advance so that you are prepared once you are able to complete the FAFSA and you're looking out for these things. All right. So the first thing that is going to happen is if you successfully submitted the FAFSA and it was sent, if you or your parents also signed it and sent it, what's going to happen is that you will receive your SAI. Francisco, if you want to explain this little change in terminology, what the SAI is.
Right. And this actually goes perfect with one of the Instagram questions that we are getting right now. Andrea Mayori is saying, what is the FAFSA? Well, let's go ahead and get us all on the same page. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. A lot of people make the mistake of assuming that the FAFSA is a scholarship, that it is a loan, that it is financial aid itself. When in reality, the FAFSA is a form that assesses the family's financial standing. It gathers documentation, it gathers information from the family's tax returns, from other financial documents, and then it paints a picture as to what the family's finances look like. Now, what happens after the student fills out the form, or what is one of the biggest differences between previous years and now? Well, prior to the 2023 FAFSA, or the FAFSA that launched in 2023 for the 2024-2025 school cycle, a student would complete it and they would get something called the EFC number. They would get the estimated family contribution number, which was a number amount that basically was meant to represent how much a family could expect to contribute or was expected to contribute to the student's education. And then based on that, different entities, whether that be the federal government, whether that would be the institutions or the colleges that they would be attending, would be able to make decisions on how much financial aid they were going to award the student based on their policies. And as a side note, in Best College Aid, we make sure that students only apply to universities that are very generous once they look at that number and say, okay, well, I'm going to satisfy a bunch of need dependent on this number. But I digress. That's a separate subject. What is different now is that instead of calculating for something called the EFC number, now the students will receive, once they fill out the FAFSA, something called the Student Aid Index, the SAI. And it serves the same concept of painting a picture or, having a numerical value represent or have some sort of insights as to what the family's finances look like. But you can think of it now more as sort of like the insurance market, like the marketplace, where it's more derived on the federal poverty line. And it's more derived on, okay, based on this number, let's look at where you live. Let's look at the dependents in the household. And that is what goes into the calculation to get the student aid index. Now, once you fill out the form, not only will you get this number, you will also see your eligibility for different sorts of aid, specifically or more specifically the Pell Grant. And you could either get a partial amount, you can receive the full amount. And again, that is all derived on the same logic that one uses when they get their insurance and they take a look at all these different factors and then assess the family's financial standing. But that is what you can expect right away when it comes to the SAI. So that is number one. Number two, in the coming weeks, the federal government is going to take the information that they gather from the FAFSA and they will be sending it directly to the colleges. So again, the FAFSA will make decisions on federal aid based on this number themselves. But as we've talked extensively, there are different types of aid or different sources of money for students. There's the federal government, there is the institutions that they will be attending, colleges and universities, there is private aid, and there is state aid. They have different requirements, they have different things that they look at, but for the most part, the FAFSA will be the most cost efficient or the biggest bang for buck in terms of effort that you have to put into potential rewards. So in the coming weeks, colleges will finally get a look at these numbers. And a lot of people tell us, oh, you talk about like filling out the FAFSA, first come, first serve. That's not necessarily true, blah, 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 blah. Well, what we mean, or one of the biggest things that we mean by that, is the college can literally not make accurate, prudent decisions on your financial situation and offer your financial aid award package if they don't have the necessary information to take a look at your family's finances.
Yep.
So the earlier that you fill it out, the earlier the colleges receive it, the earlier they can make decisions about your situation and then offer you a financial aid award package, and then you can act accordingly.
But you also mentioned another form, another financial aid form called CSS Profile. Unlike the FAFSA, the CSS Profile did open on time. Some schools have had it available since October, but some students, unfortunately, every year they don't look it up, they don't do the research, and they don't even know that they have to submit this form, or they find out too late. So make sure that you check your students' list of colleges, you see which colleges do require this form, and you make sure that you are submitting both forms, basically, because the colleges that do require the CSS Profile, you still will have to submit the FAFSA. All right, Fran, why don't we go ahead and answer some questions, because we did get a lot of questions from parents concerned about this whole college FAFSA debacle.
My son graduates this year. If we are going to fill out the FAFSA, which it shouldn't be an if, it should be an when we fill out the FAFSA, what tax year do we have to use? So number one, let's talk about why you should fill out the FAFSA. A lot of people assume, or a lot of people have this preconceived notion that maybe if I make too much money for college, I should not fill out the FAFSA. It's a waste of time. They're going to get my information. I'm not going to get any aid. There are two reasons why you should still fill it out anyway. So number one, there are other factors other than income that will affect your eligibility to get aid for college. Again, there is a situation as far as like where do you live? There's also, how many dependents are in the household. And again, this methodology can affect, other than your income, whether or not you're eligible for need-based aid, because again, there are two reasons why you get money: based on need and based on merit. So let's talk about merit. A lot of people assume that because they hear the word financial aid, so they think that, oh, only people that have financial need get money. Or in reality, whether it's the institution, whether it is a state program, because a lot of states have eligibility requirements to get awards. They could be having above a certain GPA or having above a certain score on the SAT or ACT. But one of the caveats, or one of the requirements for you to be able to receive these funds that are completely based on merit and have nothing to do with your family's financial need, is that you complete the FAFSA. So you want to fill it out anyways. And the worst case scenario, or the worst thing that could happen, is that you don't get any aid, but that you're eligible for more favorable loans. It's not like college is going to become more expensive for taking the 30 minutes to complete the form. So that is why you should fill it out regardless. Why it makes no sense to not complete it. And then what tax returns do we have to use? Well, when filling out the FAFSA, you always want to look at the year for which you're filling it out. In this case, the 2024-2025 school cycle. You'll take that first number and you subtract 2. So 2024, you subtract 2, that's 2022. That is the fiscal year for which you have to use the documents for. So it would be your 2022 tax returns. And you do that every year that you need to complete the FAFSA.
When can my son fill out the FAFSA? Can you complete it in junior year? Excellent question. The FAFSA needs to be completed for the first time, should be completed senior year of high school. And it does need to be renewed every year after that.
What you should be asking yourself to very easily determine whether you should be completing out the FAFSA or not: simple. Next academic year, am I going to be in college? Odds are, if you're following the natural progression, when it's your senior year of high school, you ask that question: am I going to be in college next year? Yes, I'm going to be doing my freshman year of college. Am I going to be in college next year? Yes, it's going to be my sophomore year. Sophomore year, you fill it out for junior. Junior year, you fill it out for senior year. And then when you're a senior, you ask yourself, hey, Francisco, am I going to be in college next year? Nope. Ideally, I will have graduated, so I do not have to fill out the form. That is what you do. The other test is, what tax returns do I use? Well, 2 years prior from the academic year that I'm starting, for which the form is for. And you know that you use those tax returns. Those are the two most basic ways to answer those really recurring questions. So hopefully that provides value to you all, and hopefully that clarifies your question.
Thank you so much for joining. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and share it with somebody who might need to learn information like this. We will see you next time. Have a wonderful night.